Hello, everyone, and welcome to this evening's Vernon Salon series. My name is Anne Rainwater. I founded the Vernon Salon series a little over 5 years ago. Our first performance was in January of 2016, and tonight I'm actually bringing you solo performances of my own that I'll be playing for you. So I'm a little nervous to be emceeing and playing at the same time, but I'm going to be doing my best. Um, you're in for 6 pieces tonight. They're all quite short, though. The program tonight is a lot of pieces that remind me of childhood, of play, of humor, of fun, and I thought we could use some pieces like this at this time. Spring is coming out. The time change happened. Things are looking up in the country in certain ways, and so I just wanted to share some of that with you and share some of this wonderful music. So first on the program, the only Baroque piece tonight. I haven't played a piece. I haven't played a program in a very long time without Bach on the program. This program tonight does not have Bach, but we do have Scarlatti. So Scarlatti was a Baroque composer born in the same year as J.S. Bach, 1685. I believe he died in 1757. And this is a very, very, very short sonata of his, sonata in E major. It's probably about 3 or 4 minutes. He wrote a whole series of sonatas that are just remarkable. They're a lot of fun. This is one that, to me, when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was go on a roller coaster. That was one of my dreams. I thought that's what grown-ups did. So this is kind of the musical version of what I imagined a roller coaster would feel like, kind of getting to the top and swooping on down. And in your chat, if you missed some of the announcements that I'll be making throughout this, the composers, the name, etc., my tech crew over there should be posting some of the titles of the pieces in the chat. And I will also at the end be using my phone here, checking on the chat. Feel free to ask questions, make comments, etc. And let me switch over my mic, and here's the Scarlatti Sonata. So that was the Scarlatti Sonata in E major. Quite short, as I said, but a very nice piece, lots of fun to play, and just very playful overall, so I'm really into that. The next piece, speaking of childhood from earlier, the next piece is the Chopin Nocturne in E minor, which was published after he died, published posthumously. It is believed to have been written somewhere between 1828 and 1830. There's even some sources that say 1827, so that would make him about 17 or 18 when he wrote this piece, which that to me is remarkable. Once you hear it, you'll understand. But my memory of this from childhood is actually watching a made-for-TV movie. I believe it was on the Hallmark Channel, of The Secret Garden. This wasn't even the film that ended up in the theaters. This was a made-for-TV only movie, I think from the early to mid-90s, and this piece was used throughout the whole film as sort of a leitmotif to represent the strife, all the family struggles, some of the agony that are in that story, The Secret Garden. And so to me, this piece was very mysterious, very magical, full of nature. There are a lot of images of the garden. So I actually only learned it recently, last year, and it brought back a lot of those memories. It just is quite a remarkable piece. I would say a lot of Chopin's nocturnes are quite well known even to the general public, but I'm betting most of you listening will recognize at least a part of this piece. So I hope you enjoy. So, as I mentioned, there is a chat feature on this video. Should be on the right sidebar of your YouTube video there if you don't have it full screen. So please feel free to comment and chat away, and I'll be able to look at the comments and any questions you have towards the end of this concert tonight. Also on your screen, you should see an overlay on the bottom right, which allows you to support this series. And I wanted to add to that tonight that I am a member of this group called Beyond Artists, and this is a group. I think the organization might be based in New York, but it's not really a place-based organization. It's actually just a group of musicians who have decided in their performances and their other artistic endeavors to donate a certain amount of money to organizations that they care about. So this could be any number of organizations. This evening I'll be donating some of the funds that I raised to two local organizations here. One is called the Asian Pacific Fund, and another one is called Liberation in a Generation. And they're both organizations based in the East Bay here that help different groups achieve greater economic success, greater economic freedom, offering scholarships, financial advice, etc. That I feel is very important. So your donations tonight will also be helping that. So that was Chopin that you just heard, the posthumous Nocturne in E minor, and now we're gonna go for something completely different, and get into actually the American section of the program. So 3 American composers in a row. I love the cover of this music here, and I actually need to look up the painter because I'm not really sure the story behind this. But Copland, Aaron Copland, lived from 1900 to 1990. I think it should be in your notes there. And he wrote this piece in 1920, which again, a piece written when the composer was quite young. He, along with actually the other 2 American composers on this program tonight, all 3 of them at some point in their careers won a Pulitzer Prize for music. So Aaron Copland was awarded a Pulitzer Prize for Appalachian Spring, his orchestral work, and the others I'll tell you about afterwards. But this is another short, sweet, probably the most humorous piece on the program. It's called The Cat and the Mouse, and it literally sounds like the animals are chasing each other the whole time. I should also add that I feel, or I hope, I sort of made this up, but I'm hoping that my piano has some sort of connection to Aaron Copland. I bought my piano here in New York about more than 10 years ago. And for a long time before that, it lived at Queens College. And from what I understood, Aaron Copland worked or taught there for a brief period. And this, according to the story from the piano shop that I bought it from, this piano lived in one of the dean's offices. So it has, cup marks here from where people left their drinks on it. I just, earlier looking under the lid, I found some gum. So it was used to store things, from what I imagine. But I also like to imagine that Aaron Copland played this piano at some point. So that's kind of a nice wish connection here. This piece, again, The Cat and the Mouse, written in 1920. It is also the subtitle Scherzo Humoristique. Please enjoy. So that was Aaron Copland's The Cat and the Mouse, which I'm sure you can see why it is called that. And here again is the front cover, which I really, really enjoy. It's kind of a nice, nice painting. The next American on the program is David Lang. David Lang is a composer in New York. He is one of the co-founders of the Bang on a Can Marathon, the Bang on a Can everything. And this is a movement called WED, and WED is from a bigger set or a bigger piece called the Memory Pieces. And these were written in the early 90s, and they were basically homages to friends and associates and colleagues of his who had passed away. So each is in memory of someone. And this one is in memory of Kate Erickson. I believe she was a visual artist. This is really, it's very slow. It's very minimal in a lot of ways, but it changes ever so slightly. Every few measures, and I imagine it's to me it's sort of like a musical version of a kaleidoscope, changing very slowly. So you get all these really beautiful, brilliant, kind of icy, glassy colors that change throughout. David Lang also is a Pulitzer Prize winner, as I mentioned when talking about Copland just now. He won a Pulitzer Prize in 2008, I think, for The Little Match Girl Passion, which was an opera of his. And his music is wonderful. If you're not familiar with some of his works, it's really really quite lovely music. So here is WED. that was David Lang's Wed from the set of pieces called Memory Pieces. I think there are 8 movements in the set. They're not all serious like this one. There's one of my other favorite ones from that set is called Diet Coke. All things kind of bubbly and pop-ish. So next on the program, I have fallen in love with this piece, and I'm in the process of learning the whole piece, but tonight you're going to hear the second movement, the slower movement that's theme and variations. This is the first sonata by George Walker, and I was looking up fellow Oberlin alumni, actually, and I came across George Walker, and I can't believe I didn't know about him earlier, because all of his music is gorgeous. He was, now I don't remember when he was born. I'm just drawing a blank. 19 teens, I think. 1922. 1922, says my tech crew. 1922. And he just recently passed away, actually, in 2018. And he won a Pulitzer Prize in, let me check the bio in the back, I want to say, it doesn't say, I want to say it was the early to mid 90s for a piece of his called Lilacs. And he had a really remarkable career. He started out as an incredibly talented young pianist, and was immediately admitted to Oberlin after this public performance. I think he was 14, graduating with the highest honors in his conservatory class. Then he was admitted to Curtis, and he became the first Black graduate of that school. He was also the first Black composer to win the Pulitzer Prize, and taught for years at, I want to say, Rutgers University. I'll need to check on that, but his output was quite big. This movement that you're going to hear is relatively tonal. The main theme is actually taken from an old, I guess you would call it a folk tune, "Bury Me Beneath the Willows," and you might have heard this song. It's been recorded by a variety of artists. But the outer 2 movements are stormy, atonal, tempestuous, just these big kind of dense, thick, expressions, and the middle movement is really kind of a respite from that. So you're going to hear a theme followed by 6 total variations, and once again, this is from the second movement of George Walker's first piano sonata. So please enjoy. a really lovely piece, isn't it? So that brings us actually to the last piece on the program. I always get through most of my program, and it feels very fast. But I'm a bad judge of time while I'm performing, I think. So the last piece is not by an American. The last piece is by Sergei Prokofiev, who was a Russian composer that in his time at the conservatory when he was younger, he was in his mid to late teens, he was known as this kind of enfant terrible, this kind of, rabble rouser at the time. He was writing music that was cacophonous and percussive, and he didn't want to follow the rules. He didn't want to complete his music theory and harmony assignments. He was always kind of battling his teachers. And so he became known as this real, like I said, a rabble rouser, strong pieces that you had to have sort of fortitude to listen to. This piece is not that, though. This piece is kind of a center of calm in the middle of a lot of his other chaotic pieces, which are also very brilliant, but this piece is kind of a different variety. So this piece is Opus 22, and it's a series of short pieces. I'm not going to play them all this evening. I'm going to play you nine of them out of 20. They're each about 30 seconds to a minute long. And the title is Vision Fugitif. So fleeting visions is usually how it's translated in English, but I wanted to actually read a little bit about where this title came from, because it's kind of an interesting title. So it was from a poem by this man Constantin Balmont, and Prokofiev actually was inspired by his works as early as 1909. These pieces are they're written over a 3-year period, 1915 to 1917, roughly. And this is from the poem called I Do Not Know Wisdom. And the poet here uses the word mimolyon nosti. I'm sure my Russian is incorrect, but that was my best shot. That word means transiences. So then that has been again translated into the phrase vision fugitif. And it comes from a set of poems that are actually all the way from 1903. The poem, it reads, I do not know wisdom, leave that to others. I only turn fugitive visions into verse. In each fugitive vision I see worlds, full of the changing play of rainbows. Don't curse me, you wise ones. What are you to me? The fact is I'm only a cloudlet, full of fire. The fact is I'm only a cloudlet. Look, I'm floating, and I summon dreamers. You I summon not. So that's where the title came from. Let me find my screen again. And what I've done, or what my tech assistant has done, in the chat there is given you the movement title, and then the tempo or character marking that is Prokofiev's, and then in parentheses you'll find some of my thoughts on that, and I can expand more upon this in the chat right afterwards if any of you have questions about it. But a lot of the pieces in here to me are very whimsical, very fairy tale-like. They're not childish, but they're more like Grimm's fairy tales to me. Serious, kind of scary, full of animals, full of nature. So I, as I'm playing and learning and going over these, getting a lot of images like that. The first one, for example, makes me think of the story Beauty and the Beast. I don't know why, but it does. The last one that you'll hear this evening, the marking is ridiculosamente, and it makes me think of this weird maniacal laughing clown. So there's a whole host of things that come up in these pieces. You will hear a variety of sort of character markings of Prokofiev's in here. One of them, which is can be quite jarring, is the piece will start in a certain key and then end somewhere completely different. So you'll end on a chord and go, wait, was that even right? You'll have a lot of kind of big percussive moments. You'll have some counterpoint. You will definitely have some humor too. There's a few in the middle that remind me of mice, scampering mice. So 9 short movements, and please stay on and chat afterwards. I'm gonna have my phone out. I'll be able to see the chats in real time, and we can have a conversation. So thank you for supporting the Vernon Salon series here this evening. I will see you after the Prokofiev. Please enjoy. going to interrupt myself and say a little bit about this movement. Movement number 7, Arpa. It actually was scored for harp after he wrote the movement for piano. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as you're listening to this. The reason I wanted to just talk about a little bit about this for a second as well, this is the most evocative one to me out of all of the movements that I'm playing. So the marking of this that Prokofiev gave is pittoresco, which is picturesque in Italian, and a lot of this movement reminded me of the music of Respighi, an Italian composer. And that got me thinking of the Mediterranean, and then it got me thinking of the seaside, and then it got me thinking of ships at sea and the ocean and the sparkling water. And to me, this is a story of a ship, sailing beautifully across the water. It's summertime, the water is sparkling, there's people on the beach, and everybody's just really enjoying the sunshine. So that's the very strong image I get from this piece. And now I'll play you the rest. So there is your program for the evening, everyone. I have to say it's an interesting, different experience playing for one, playing for all of you virtually, but I can't see you. So I'm gonna check in on the chat here. That's really the only way that I can communicate with you all. So let me see. Let me see what people wrote and if anybody has any questions. And while I am doing that, I'm just looking through here. Looks like one of my cousins said that his kid said the Copland sounded like a goose game. That's great. Does anybody have any questions? And I guess while I'm waiting for y'all, if you have any questions or comments, or any questions too about the composers, about the pieces, maybe about why I chose them, and anything about really the program. I should just reiterate what this is again. So you probably know if you're tuned in by this point, but just to reiterate, this is the Vernon Salon series, and this was a series that I founded over 5 years ago. We had our first show in January of 2016, and it was meant to be a monthly gathering for all kinds of artists, not just musicians. At the beginning, I had a lot of many more different artists. There were dancers, there were lecturers. I had a literary scholar lecture on Beckett one time, poets. There were also, as musicians, singers, string players, flute players, guitarists. We had a lecture one time from a guy who used to work in the wine industry. But the idea was to bring a bunch of people together to support artists in an informal way, in a living room, and just to promote the arts and to promote community on a monthly basis. So that ran for quite a while, and then the pandemic hit, and we took a little break. But ever since last May, except for the summer when we're off, I've been doing this once a month, streaming. So if you are interested, if you're a first time or a relatively new listener, a lot of these concerts back since May are archived online, so you can go back and listen. You can even donate to the artists retroactively. Speaking of donating, question, I didn't see a donation link. Oh, it's on the bottom right of your page. It should be on the bottom right of your page. If you're in full screen, or if it's off to the side on a laptop, you might not see it. But there's a PayPal and a Venmo link, and that helps to support the series. And if you missed part of the beginning where I was talking about additional information about the series and who I am and what I do, I'm a member of this group called Beyond Artists, and it's a very informal group. There's no requirements other than you want to be a part of it. With your performances and other musical activities, you basically pledge to donate an amount to organizations that you support. Some people support racial justice organizations. Some people support environmental organizations. Some people support animal organizations. Some people support international wildlife organizations. So it's totally up to the individual artist. And tonight, if you're donating, part of my funds will be donated locally here in the East Bay to Liberation in a Generation, which is based in Oakland, and the Asian Pacific Fund, which I think is based in Oakland too. It might be based in San Francisco, but it's for the whole Bay Area. And those are two organizations that I believe in and feel strongly about and am happy to support. There is, oh hi David, could you tell us something more about who George Walker is? So George Walker was, I don't remember remember where he was born, but he basically rose to prominence rather quickly because he was a prodigy at the piano. He gave a quite successful public appearance at the age of 14, and according to the biography, was immediately admitted into Oberlin Conservatory to study. And he did really well there. He moved right on to Curtis in Philadelphia, and as I said earlier, he was the first Black graduate of that school, which was a milestone. He then, after he graduated, from what I've gathered and what I've read in different biographical sources, he did have trouble getting some of his music premiered, which was not uncommon for Black composers of that time, let's say 30s, 40s, 50s, and it's very unfortunate because his music is fantastic. He wrote a variety of pieces. He didn't just write piano works. He did write about 6 piano sonatas, I believe, orchestral works, string quartets, works with voice as well, voice and orchestra. And I believe he spent most of his professional career in terms of teaching after that. I'm pretty sure it was Rutgers. So he had, a mixed bag of a career, getting commissions, having orchestral works performed, having, university level and beyond students. And he only just passed away in 2018. He just died recently, and he was awarded the Pulitzer Prize in Music 1996. I'm gonna have to look it up, but that was for a piece called Lilacs. And from all of the YouTube videos that I've seen, he was just the most wonderful person. Very, very calm demeanor, sort of quiet, seemingly a little bit shy, and just could really, at least from what the music that I've heard of his, really just kind of extract beauty from any possible melody, and as you heard in the variations, that main theme is just gorgeous, and it's exquisitely written for piano too. I imagine as a piano virtuoso, as a young piano virtuoso, which he was very intimately, in the know how to write for piano, and everything in his music so far, even the outer movements that I've mentioned, the first and third movements, which are much more atonal, they're hard, but they're doable on piano. They're very well written. For example, there's the center of the camera. I have pretty small hands. I can reach a ninth if I really, really stretch, and the third movement is full of ninths. That's pretty much the extent of the right hand in the third movement. And I imagine he could reach a ninth, but even that, even though it's a difficult reach, it sits well under the hands. He knew what he was really doing for piano. Oh, hey, Xian. What was the easiest piece on the program? What was the hardest? Good question. I have to say that Copland, The Cat and the Mouse, is actually not too hard. It's very flashy, but it's very patterned, and it's one of these pieces that I actually kind of learned it accidentally. I was reaching for a Chopin piece last week to show a student, and I had, of course, misalphabetized my music over there in the bookshelf, and the Copland fell out, and I went, oh, this is a cool piece, I forgot about this, and I think I learned it a couple weeks ago, so it's pretty new, but it's not as hard as it seems. It's just rather flashy. I think the hardest for me is actually still the George Walker piece. Some of those parts in the middle at the towards the end of the variations are a bunch of octaves, and as a longtime pianist, I dislike octaves and I tend to avoid them in most pieces, but I didn't want to avoid this piece, so I just have to buckle down and learn my octaves. So I find a lot of octaves in a row still very, very tricky after many years. A theme and variation second movement seems a bit unusual. Is the first movement in traditional sonata form? Sort of. Let me, and I don't know it, or I don't know it well, but I'll play you the beginning of the sonata, just maybe even the first couple measures, so you can get an idea how different it is. It's marked Allegro Energico, with energy. I probably didn't turn on my correct mic. I don't know if you could all hear that. It's completely different from the second movement. It's roughly written in C sharp minor. Both the first and third movements are in C sharp minor. There is, I would say, a rough sonata form. The main theme does come back at the end, but it's a little, in both movements, a little twisted. And I wouldn't say the development is a traditional development. So I would say it's sonata form inspired. He also wrote this when he was in his 30s, but he went back almost 40 years later and revised this. So I would be interested to see as I learn this piece more, and of course continue to learn about George Walker, why he went back more than almost 40 years to revise it. And it'd be interesting to see an original autograph and how different that was. Sometimes composers don't want to change a thing. Some composers, another example is Brahms, his Opus 8 string piano trio. I think he went back, same deal, like 40 years later, and revised a bunch of stuff. In my opinion, the original is better. And who knows, with George Walker, perhaps the original was very different and he wanted to modify it. So thanks, Jeff. That was a good question. So I think we are at the end. That ended up being a little longer than I realized, which is, I guess, good. I hope you all enjoyed the program. I really appreciate you all tuning in on your Friday night. And if you would like to learn more about the Vernon Salon series and you're not familiar with it, again, if you're a new listener, you can always go to my website, annerainwater.com. I have a Vernon Salon tab on the top that you can click on and learn more about the series. You can send me an email on my website if you'd like to be added to the monthly email invitation. I just send out one email a month, and it usually is just, hey, here's the program, here's the artist, and here's the live link. When we do get back to in-person concerts, whenever that is, I am still hoping to do the streaming so that folks who don't live in the area can tune in as well. So one of the upsides of this time has been reaching people in different time zones, reaching people who are not here locally, and it's kind of fun to see you all in the chat too. So thank you very much. Please feel free to always email me if you have questions about anything else, and feel free to tune in next month for the next one, mid-April. Anne Heggie, she's a local composer here. Actually, she lives right up the hill from me. And I think that's about it. We will catch you next month. What do I turn? Bye.